I'd like to call to order the Capital Improvement Committee at 2:04 PM. In attendance is Ellie Chesbro. Oh, before I even start, Matt sent out an email. We have a new minute taker, so everybody has to announce who they are, and so then she can put a face with the name moving forward. It'll be a little bit of a transition period. Hopefully this actually stays longer and helps us out. Anyways, in attendance is, go ahead.
Ellie Chesbro.
Kent Vincent.
John Furno.
Ben Tessino.
Randa Nozier. Shirley, you're muted.
Got me?
Yes.
Shirley Nasinski.
Yeah, Shirley is remote. And also in attendance is Matt Wilger. And I'm Mike Fitzpatrick. All right, the first thing on our agenda is to, I put down just review any capital requests. So my question would be to Matt, if we have anybody else coming in that's going to present to us. He acknowledged in a negative manner, so so I would take that as no. So we have what we have for presentations. So then Matt sent out I asked him to forward or it's out of sequence. First thing, and the second thing I asked him, that's on the agenda, is I asked Matt for our proposed capital budget, which he needs a little bit more time. Jean's not in today. He's got to go over it with her to give us a budget so we have some sort of guidance
That we need John to stop spending so much money.
That was Matt Wodrick that just said that?
I want to pull up to the table to make Ashley's life easier.
Yep.
Yeah, so I hope we're finished with snow and ice. That's going to help us have a lot more clarity on what remains from the certified balance of free cash. So.
Hopefully, John, huh?
But I want to consult with Jean on the other needs of the town and what we think is prudent to carry over from one year to the next. Because I don't anticipate spending to zero and then trying to rebuild free cash. I think now that we've started to carry some forward every year, we want that balance to grow. So I'm just going to balance the urgency of the needs of the town for capital versus its need for financial stability.
Yep.
All right?
And what I had done was reach out to Matt so we had some sort of budget for a guidance, so then we're not in a position where we try to recommend all these things and then we're trying to figure out what to take off. And we need some sort of guidance to help us through that process. So in any event, he'll get that to us in the next meeting, I would think. On March 23rd, I need to go to the Finance Committee with our recommendations that we're going to have. Whatever we decide to go forward with, I'm going to ask that the proponent or the requester joins me at that meeting so then they can advocate for their project instead of myself being in the position where I'm trying to defend the project, which is, I don't think, is what I'm supposed to be doing. And lastly is I asked Matt to send us the current grading that we have for the projects, which everybody got an email if they didn't get it. I'll let myself or Matt know, and we'll make sure that you get the thing. Between now and the next meeting, if you can take a look at that and the projects that were presented, and try to get a feel for how you want to grade those particular projects, just to expedite our next meeting to make it a little easier, would be helpful. Other than that, I don't know if anybody has anything. It's going to be a short, sweet meeting because we don't have a lot to talk about.
So just so one way that we can do this, collaborative work tools are great.
Shirley, can you mute your phone, your computer?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Collaborative work tools are great, but you have to balance that with the Open Meetings Act requirements. So if I can't put a spreadsheet into a shared drive and have you each enter your scores because that's basically
yeah.
deliberating.
I don't want to do that. I just want to.
So, the other way I'll put the score sheet in the shared drive so that if you're at home and you misplace yours, you don't have to chase all around. You can print it or download it to your computer and use it. Just don't send anybody or me anything that's filled out. Have it filled out. Now, if we start the next meeting, if you get here 5 minutes early and you can give it to me and I can quickly enter the data, or you can forward, if you do it in Excel or even Word, if you forward it to me right before the meeting starts, I can copy and paste it and you'll be able to see your scores pretty much live. Rather than having to, spend a lot of time tabulating. Because I think the last time we did this, most of the discussion came after all the scores were posted and people saw how the projects shook out. Because then there was this general discussion of, well, do we agree with the outcome of our own system? Or are there policy arguments to be made? And I think we may have changed the position of one or two projects.
I think it was the water projects, if I remember correctly.
Right.
They rated really high.
The going down Gilboa Street was the #1 rated project, but because there were other means to finance it, and it was really contingent on a project that wasn't signed, sealed, and delivered yet, it got bumped out.
Because it would have taken up everything we had, right?
Yeah, and I have to be honest, I'm not so sure. I'm glad that this committee did it this way this year and didn't have water sewer come in. It's an enterprise fund, and there's just a different approach. I mean, I don't think, and I think this is a point, I'm looking at Ellie, I think Ellie's made this point before. Not everybody in town lives within the service district. So when we bring any of these projects to the fore, there would have to be a real compelling reason to have it in town meeting for all the taxpayers to pay for out of free cash or other funds that have been raised outside of the enterprise fund's own capabilities or the enterprise fund's decision to borrow. So it just gets really messy, and it's better not to have them on,
Right.
in my opinion.
On that line, I was watching one of the finance committee meetings, and one of the members there was asking for what the plan was, the capital plan for the roads. Is that something that we should be discussing at our meetings to try to address that, or is that something that's being worked out on the selectmen's level, or how is that going?
Well,
Because they're going to ask me when I go on March 23rd, so we might as well be proactive and get some sort of idea.
John has some new information, which I think he should give to you right now. I will say, before John takes the microphone, that if the Capital Improvement Committee wants to recommend that a set of road projects are a very high priority and want to allocate some of its budget to a roadway project in addition to the resources that John has dedicated through state program, then that's a step that you would be well within your charge to make.
But yeah, I'm just suggesting that we become proactive with it. You went through the trouble of getting Stantec to do that evaluation of all our roads and recommendations and things like that. Now the finance committee is asking what our plan is, and I don't think there's a plan. I think it's just a study was done, and that's as far as we are right now.
Right. So, Chapter 90 balance right now, that's state aid for paving, bridges, what have you. My balance, we just got our award letter for this year is $360,000, which is normal every year. With that money, that's not accessible till July 1, but they tell us now so we can plan. Right now, with that money, I have $1.1 million in Chapter 90 money. But we have the Cedar Street Bridge project. We have a $500,000 grant we're using. $232,000 of that was for the engineering. So the remaining balance of the bridge, after the $500,000 is used, is coming out of Chapter 90. Now, the bridge construction is roughly $700,000. So when all is said and done, and with me keeping $100,000 aside like I do all the time in case of emergency in a road, I'll have about $600,000 to pave this year. out of the state aid money, not including any money from the town.
Yeah.
So,
What, on average, is it a cost per mile, cost?
well, if you, roughly 1 mile of road paved is about $400,000.
And I'm only asking this so everybody understands.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to see the pavement study, it's on the town's website under Highway Department.
Right.
So you can see where your street falls.
And what are you thinking that you would like to see, or you think is critical for this?
Well,
particular
for this year, I know Matt gets the same calls I do from residents on South Street. There's a bad section from Jefferson Drive down to Hemlock Street that is in terrible shape. So that's going to take probably almost $500,000 there. Cemetery Street was rated a 0 on the pavement study, which is the absolute worst.
Right.
We just did a new water line in the fall there. That's about $100,000. And then there's a section of Southwest Main Street from the main gate to the Grand Trunk. That's in real bad shape as well. So, and then there's crack sealing we want to do. We're trying to use the whole pavement study, do a little bit of
Right.
everything in the study, you know, so.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to get a feel for what
Yeah.
what you're thinking that you may, you identified, the first two items basically ate up your 600,000.
Correct.
So then, the
And I have,
Southwest Main Street, what would that represent?
without looking, Mike, I'm not going to throw a number at you.
But that's gotta
uh,
be a mile of road there.
I'm pretty sure it is, yeah.
And you have, just so everybody knows, I live on Southwest Main Street, so I'm familiar with it because I go down the Tractor Supply or whatever.
Yeah,
I think you have other challenges there as well. It's not just paving there because,
well, the part in the state forest is probably just paving and natural runoff there.
oh, all right. yeah.
But from there down to the Four Corners, you know, at Wallem Lake Road is,
Yeah.
you know, that's a mess as well. But, I mean, we have to,
You gotta
I'd love to do it all. I only need $16.5 million, and then
Yeah.
we could do it all. So,
Yeah.
you know,
So I think the key for us as a committee, because we have a lot of big ticket items to
Yep.
get done, is to know what that budget is from Matt.
yeah, right, and then we could
And
pick from,
that'll help us quite a bit.
John, this is Ellie talking. When you plan on doing these jobs, is it just staff on the town staff that's available now, or do you contract it out?
that's all contracted out.
Yeah, we don't have the equipment for
No,
that.
we don't have paving machines, rollers, and we don't have the technology or the manpower to do a job of that
And if they did that, they wouldn't be doing anything else.
at all. At all.
And Kent would lose his mind if they didn't have the road fixed and they were somewhere else. Okay, so you're gonna, are you gonna put anything together to give to us for what your immediate needs would be for that? The first two you identified, I don't know if that's your intentions of working on those, but if you're thinking of Southwest Main Street or whatever.
I mean, I can put something together and send it off, but those three, just showing how much it would cost.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
some money aside for crack sealing, and then, you know,
Yeah.
it's not etched in stone, but you'll have an idea what
Well,
those,
we're going to accomplish two different things by going through this, is the committee knows what you're thinking, roughly how much you want to spend each year.
Yeah.
And also the committee can report back to the finance committee that being proactive, we've seen their concerns and we just are trying to address everything. So whether or not we can afford to do it, that'll be up
Sure.
to Matt and Jean to tell us what we can afford to do. All right,
sounds good,
I appreciate it, John.
no problem.
Does anybody have any questions on the grading thing? Anybody have a chance to look at that? or-
I have a question.
Yep.
So we're going to grade everything just for FY '22, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep, we have our ongoing list, and it was just to try to reel us in and get it under control, so then we can move
Sure,
forward,
yeah.
and hopefully this pandemic thing goes away and we start getting back to normal life. But once we get through this FY '22 thing, we probably should look at the following year, so we're not trying to cram it in, even if we just have 1 or 2 meetings after that, just to try to get a feel for where things are gonna be, because we haven't even looked at our 5-year plan, we just moved the stuff there, but I'd like to try to revisit that a little bit.
And the only other question I had was the police weapons and the fire department cruiser, those are they still on or off the list?
I think, Mr. Chairman, is it okay?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I really want to expense the police weapons in the operating budget. I absolutely don't want
Yep.
that to be a capital item.
Because that's a reoccurring expense, what's that, every 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, and it's absolutely essential to doing the job, so we,
Yeah.
really have, it has to be in the budget. And I actually feel the same way about the fire cruiser. I mean, we've already had that, I've already made that clear.
Okay.
That's where I feel, I don't have it in, I don't have either item in my current version of the budget, but I do know that based on where I am in the budget, I'm able to cover those
No,
expenses.
speaking about the fire cruiser, now, I know through green communities, we can get some sort of assistance, 5,000, 7,500, so it's not a lot of money, whether it's a hybrid or a plug-in type thing. And I've been driving back and forth to the Cape, and I have Stadies passing me, I'm doing 80 and they're going by me like I'm stopped, and they get the hybrid cruisers. So there's, performance-wise, it seems like they're zipping right along. Would it make sense to explore something like that? And obviously, it's up to the fire chief if it even meets his needs, but explore something like that, because eventually, the police department's gonna have to move into a vehicle. And I don't think it would be wise we have all Tahoes zipping around for the police department. It might not be cost-effective for us.
You don't like the 9 miles per gallon performance?
I like the ride, but the mileage isn't so hot.
I refer to it as the Titanic, because every time you get in one of those things, you're going to hit an iceberg. Anyway,
But he's had that other vehicle for 7 years, so he knows if it fits his needs or it doesn't fit his needs. It may be a good discussion to have.
I mean, that's not a conversation we've had yet. As a police interceptor, this year's model has not gotten good reviews from the departments that have
Right.
them. They don't save any money at all, and they have operational difficulties. So those are not plug-in models. They are, the battery charges
Yeah.
as the gasoline-powered portion of the engine runs. Police vehicles have so many demands on them for electricity that when the car is parked and it's not idling, it's drawing down its charge very
Right.
quickly and wearing out the batteries. So then,
And he could potentially have the same problem.
and then police officers find themselves turning the car on to charge the battery, and then they're just running the engine, so they're not saving anything.
Well,
You
that's
don't
when
idle, you
that's
don't
when-
do stakeouts in the fire department.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, that's a more.
There's the occasional illegal burn, right? But
The only thing, one of the things that way my cruiser's program, when it shuts off, the repeater stays on for 2 hours. Because I'm usually wearing a portable no matter where I am. And that way, I have contact with whoever I need to within, and of course, the radio system's gonna change. It'll be a lot better once we go forward with the radio system. But I don't see that changing at all. Just because,
What, the repeater? You would still use that even with the new radio system, or?
yeah, the cars will have repeaters.
yeah, no, car one will definitely have a repeater,
So-
yeah.
And the engines have repeaters now, so even with the VHF, you'll have repeaters. So even after my car shut off, it's actually keeping the radio on so that I have a repeater, so that if I'm out of the car and I'm called,
Yeah,
I'm able to answer them, you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Yeah, it's using what's called a charge guard module that you can set for an hour, 2 hours.
Right, and
To keep
Jim,
it-
always,
keep
I
it
didn't even know that was a thing,
Yeah.
Brandon, but you're a radio guy, so you know that thing.
Yeah,
Are
Yes,
your cruisers the same way?
yes, yep.
So if you're in, you shut the car, if you're not running the car, but you still can talk on your radio because the repeater still will pick it
yeah,
up.
Right.
yeah.
So that's the way they've always been set up. I would obviously want to stay with that. And as far as size, really. My car is smaller than doesn't really meet my needs. I have a lot of equipment that I carry for different types of events. I've got combustible gas indicators, binoculars, all that
Yep,
stuff.
yep. And the reason why I'm bringing this-
Structural gear, accountability board and all that type of stuff, so.
The reason
Like
why
right
I'm
now-
bringing this up is because we're constantly looking for sources for revenue, and because I'm on building and facilities, and these guys designated us the green guys, this stuff comes through our committee, so I'm like, oh, maybe this will work, and I'm thinking, well, if it doesn't work for the police department because we're unsure if it would work, your mode of use is a little different than theirs. You're not sitting there at the DPW and watching 47 million cars go by.
Correct.
It was just a suggestion to see if it was something that we could accomplish two different goals. One, the cruiser, as well as, not to experiment with your department, but a trial run, so then we know where we should be going with the police department as we move forward.
There's a good chance that what the Massachusetts State Police is buying is a better model than what, it might be a little bit more expensive, but it might be worth
It
exploring.
looks like his, except it's blue, and it says hybrid on it, and it goes zoom.
Yeah,
So they're flying.
and they could be supervisors who don't idle anywhere. I'm not,
Yeah.
but the marketplace is driving us towards this conclusion, right?
Right, that's why
By
I'm
a certain
bringing
point
it
in the
up.
future, almost every vehicle is going to have some electric component to it. And with that in mind, because they give this stuff away for free, I put in for some free money for a charging station. 'Cause
Right.
why not, if it's
Right.
not taxpayer money? Because if we eventually get any number of cars, and some of them might benefit from being able to plug in, then we would have the resource to do that without, in the future, it might be more expensive or more difficult to get. So, yeah, that's kind of where we are with the program. I, generally speaking, really want to be deferential to the public safety chiefs on how they equip their fleet.
Oh, yeah,
what
yeah,
is
and
their
I'm not
needs.
trying to guide him into that, it's only
Yeah.
a suggestion, that's all, just bring it.
Now, at the moment, we're looking at a greedy eye at the Durango, because that's the one that's not a hybrid right now. But, it's not a big, it's a pretty small SUV.
Right,
Yeah, and that's my only thing. I think I said the last meeting I was here, I actually consulted with Chief Ostrowski, who's now the state fire marshal. He had an expedition, so he had just got a new expedition before he left. So I called him and said, hey, what do you think? He goes, well, DFS has all the Explorers, and I find that it's big enough. I said, okay, so I went with the Explorer, and I find myself trying to streamline all my equipment, and it's like trying to put 5 pounds of stuff in a 10 pounds of stuff in a 5-pound bag. And that was the other thing, I didn't wanted to strike that happy medium. I wanted a bigger vehicle, but then I try to hold on to more stuff,
Right.
So it becomes a catch-22. I'm just trying to streamline and,
you stop over the garage, John could probably put a little trailer hitch on it, like,
actually, my cruiser has a trailer hitch.
So, Mr. Chairman, just one quick question for John.
yeah.
Do you have a printout from Gene that says you've already spent 232 out of that grant?
No,
Okay.
no, that's just the paperwork, that copy that Bill had left me. That's the 232 isn't, that's for total engineering. We're only at, I think, 160 or 170, because they haven't been totally.
So that probably includes inspection services at,
Correct. You're
All right. so right now, as of today, we've spent 167,49. So $67,000 is all that's been spent out of the 500,000. That award of contract and execution of contract will be on the Board of Selectmen's agenda for Tuesday, so that we can get that project moving. The second highest bid was the bid that got the award, and it was 6 something,
Yeah, I said 7 just to be safe.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, the first guy was what, 5 and change, 580 something, 584 or something like that.
So we will be spending Chapter 90 funds, no doubt about it.
Correct.
Right.
But hopefully it'll be a little bit less than your worst-case scenario.
So as we go through this, if anybody has any questions on particular items that have been presented before they get it and before they can grade it, how do you want to handle that? You want them to email you these questions that you could, no, actually, we can't do it that way. So we'd have to bring it back to the,
Well, I'm not a member, you can send me questions and I can assemble them. I won't respond to anyone.
right, no, yeah, I wouldn't do that. I tried to get away from that the last time, Ellie, you had emailed Matt. No,
Well,
relax.
yeah, well, that's what he said to do.
Yeah.
And you can email me,
I'm
so I
not- I
did.
did, look, I was being very nice about it. All I said
I
was,
would be not nice about it.
okay, then don't be nice about it. I had asked that the questions get done in the committee format, that's all.
Yeah, right.
And it's only because I'm just concerned about the open meeting law, even though nobody responds, it's still going through a group.
And the last meeting I was at was Shirley and John and I were all remote, and it was the worst experience I've ever.
That's because you were in Vermont. We could tell.
Well, yeah, but.
We can see the ants running across the screen.
Yeah, every once in a while, a little skier goes by.
But it was, you know, it just, I couldn't do anything with that meeting. I don't
Yeah.
know about how you.
No, I was at home, I was fine.
You could hear everything. You weren't, it wasn't.
No.
Okay, so we'll just stay on the same focus. We'll, everybody take a look at the request, try to assemble some sort of grading process to it. If you want to email them to Matt ahead of time, go ahead. He's not going to share them with anybody, he's just going to, email them as an individual. Don't do a email to everybody.
So if there's research involved, what'll happen is I can do the research in between your meetings.
No, I know that.
Compile it. I'm explaining why we do it this way. So that when we get to the meeting, if you were one of the people who've asked a question, I can distribute it at that time.
Correct.
And you can see what your answers
Yeah.
are.
Well, that would be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all I was getting at is I just want, if I have a question, I'm going to email you, I'm not emailing.
Right,
Brandon.
no, just one person, yeah.
Just email Matt only.
Yeah.
I don't want it, nobody else should have it.
So this is not the list of all the projects that were presented this year, just the stuff that you put on the My Drive. We just go on each one of the individual pages?
The list that's on the drive is this year's list.
Right.
Today's memo was a historical record of what you,
From
the last time.
2019.
Yeah,
So basically, we got to go off of the ones that are on the My
Correct.
Drive.
Correct.
Just
Yep.
rate each one.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
And what is my drive?
Google Drive. I actually think
That'd be good for another.
you emailed me about permissions. Did you eventually get in there and see all the documents?
It'd be good for another 4
All I have is a, you know, a big document that's pretty wide. And,
No, electronically,
I know what you're talking about. It was about that long, right?
yeah, very small.
That's the old way.
yeah, no.
Okay, so there's something new that I should be looking at?
Yes, it's this one here.
Well, I gotta write it down. I don't know if I can do it that way.
So,
Basically, this page right here, there's 4 categories.
Okay, this is not to
yeah,
do,
you can have that.
When you get home, it'll be in your email queue, because I know that,
said today.
But
Yes.
what I'm talking about is like, if you go on Google, you're gonna see the little thing like this, it's a
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
little triangle. Now, all the stuff that's in Google Drive is in there. The stuff that Matt sent is
So
the
this,
spreadsheet.
this is old or is this new?
no, that's
You should
the,
be looking at, when you go on Google Drive, you're gonna see one with this big green bar in it. That's the latest one that has the list. You'll see the big green bar in the middle of it. It's on an Excel format. It's in Google Drive.
So you just
If
rate
you
it
have
1, 2, 3, and 4.
yeah, so Ellie, that was a system that was used in 2019, calendar 2019,
Yeah, but
Yep.
I, yeah, I like
yeah.
paper. You know, I'm not,
Oh, you're losing your credentials as an environmentalist.
Yeah, but
You're
see,
chopping
rumor
down
has it
trees
that
over there.
Rumor has it, someone in the room is going to get us a smart board.
It's right there.
There it is, right there. And you're going to be able to.
That's a
go up
demo.
there. You're going to be able to go up there and throw, like,
That one
when
doesn't
you're
do
out
what
of
I
line,
want.
he's going to make you go up and write on the board, I will be good, for 40 times.
only 40.
Only 40.
And print it out so everybody gets a copy. I did, on your request, Mr. Chairman, ask a couple of questions of the chief, and are you ready to have that conversation generally? Because,
Sure. Just lead me where you want me to start.
well, so I pay attention to this stuff and care about it and really, like,
Yeah.
but after a discussion with the chief, I realize now that we don't have 3 engines. We have 2 engines and a pumper. Pumper tanker. Under the ICS format, it would be called a tender. And so he'll go back over the history of the current engine, the one the most recently purchased by the town, so that everybody has a clear sense of what he replaced with what he bought.
So a couple of years before we got our new engine, which is now engine 3, the one we bought in 2017,
Yep.
my pitch for that was, I'm replacing 2 trucks with 1. Okay? And what I mean by that is, a couple of years before we got engine 3, I had to take one of our tankers. We had 2 tankers, both had 2,500 gallons of water. I had to take one out of service for safety reasons. It was in 1980, it was almost 30 years old. And I was concerned that the pump was going to fail, and it was just a water nightmare, okay? So, and it was very antiquated, the brakes and things like that. So I took it out of service. So we lost that ability of 2,500 gallons out of the hydrant district. So that was a tanker that I took out of service. And you saw it eventually, it made its way over to the highway. They cut the tank off and they put a sander on it. Back when, the days when money was real tight, we were trying to do overrides that kept failing, remember that? So I took that out of service, so it put me down 2,500 gallons of water to fight fire. Water on wheels, and again, 70% of our homes in Douglas are out of the hydrant district, so that was a concern. So then I had a rescue truck that was a 1989 that carried all our jaws and things like that. It ended up, why I said I was replacing 2 trucks with 1. I took the rescue, if we got the tanker, we won that. I was taking the rescue out of service. I would gain back the 1,000 gallons of water from the truck I had to put out of service. And I would be able to get 1 truck to the scene that just about everybody, if they were trained properly, could drive it. And I would have fire suppression, and I would have all my rescue tools that were hauled around. So I actually made the fleet a little bit smaller by doing that. And so Matt wanted me to go over that, because not everyone really remembered the reason the way I did things, and what my thought or rationale was.
Yep.
In other words, we downsized our fleet really by taking 2 trucks out of service and replacing with 1 truck that could do both things. So we're left with, we're trying to replace engine 1, which is our second due engine, that's basically a backup now. And we've got an engine that we bought in 2017, and we still have our tanker, which is a 2,500 gallon. At one point, we had 2 tankers that had 2,500 gallons.
But the confusion on my part comes from the fact that we call that tanker engine 2.
Yeah, it's called engine 2, but
It's not
really
an
a
engine.
tanker, so we don't really have 2 well, we do.
Well, it has a pump
He
on it.
thought we had 3 engines. We actually only have 2 plus a tanker. And
Doors are always shut, I don't know what's in there.
But, and quite honestly,
Yep.
we talk about, in the fire service, using what's called the incident command system and a structure, a different structure of the command staff at fires, and as things evolve and get bigger, there's a certain structure you're supposed to have there as far as command staff. But you're supposed to have a nomenclature of, so that everyone can understand it. I'll give you a perfect example. In Massachusetts, an ambulance is called an ambulance. In Rhode Island, an ambulance is
Is a
called
rescue.
So if I call Burrville because I need a rescue truck, which is designed to cut people out of cars, I'm going to get an ambulance. That's not what I need. This is why we have the incident command system, so we know what we're asking for. We don't have different terms in different locations, which is why they call a tanker for the incident command is actually an airplane that drops water on wildfire. That's really what a tanker is. In the fire service, a fire truck with with a large amount of water is called a tender. But not everyone's always falls in line and calls it what they're supposed to, you know? And it confuses the issue, it confuses people, because we're calling things different things at different times, and some people, and I just say engine 2, but, because that's what it was called, and
But
it's
it-
actually a tanker system.
And I had brought up the question because it was just the way I remembered it, and I haven't dug into it to see if I didn't remember it properly. But I remember that John had gotten the catch basin cleaner. That was the same year that we got the rescue pumper that replaced Rescue 1, and I thought it was engine 1.
No, it was actually,
So
That
that's why I reached out to Matt and
that was
asked him to dig
tanker.
into it to find out what it was.
Tanker 4. It was called engine 4, they called it engine 4,
Yeah.
but it was a tanker. It was a 1980 Ford Farah tanker.
Yeah.
So basically, we were replacing that. We went 2 or 3 years without it. And when I said, you know, it's a concern that we don't have that water outside of the hydro district, as much water. You were really, when we bought engine 3, we were actually taking out of service the rescue, and we'd already taken out of service another tanker, so.
I think the other thing in casual conversation is you might have referred to it as replacing in some way engine 1, because now engine 3 is first out and engine 1 is reserves. Engine 1 used to be first out.
Correct.
So you bumped the older equipment down to the second position. And that's, so just in the grand scheme of life, the universe, and everything,
Yeah.
towers and ladders are the most, and quints are the most expensive pieces of equipment in the fire department. Then the next would be the fully equipped engines that have multiple functions, whether it's an ALS engine or a rescue pumper. A pumper tender tends to be substantially less money.
Yeah.
So when that does come due,
It's gonna be a lot of money.
when the pumper tender,
Tender.
when the tender comes due, it will be less than an engine would be.
Yes, it should be, yes. But the other thing is, back when Chief Gagne took over, we were so far behind the 8 ball when he took over, we were running a 1961 or 2 engine as a first due piece. And he fixed that by getting engine 1 was brand new, that's the one we're trying to replace. Where was I going with that, John?
We had the 72 Ford and the 61 International.
Right.
Top of the line pieces in the late 80s.
Well, what I was going is, in order to save money, what he did was he bought commercial cabs. So a commercial cab tender will only carry 2 people. Whereas like a rescue pumper that we have, that carries 5 or 6.
6.
6, carries 6 people. I'd much rather roll a truck that has 6
Or
people.
4 if Adam's in there.
I'd much rather.
Yeah, but he's got the capability of 2, so it's back up to 6.
And we're very keen on safety. I could probably squeeze, remember we used to ride, you know, in the van, we put the milk case and we ride on the milk case?
Yeah, we used to do that. We don't-
I used to ride on top of the haystack and get branches hitting
So
my head.
I'm very picky, like, if there's no seatbelt there, you don't put a person there, you know?
Yeah.
So the commercial cabs actually limit you as far as how, getting a larger number of firefighters to the scene. So, you know, if we were to replace engine 1, it would be with, the minimum it would carry is 5 firefighters.
Yeah, 'cause it wasn't that long ago that we got that truck, and I just want to make sure that we're consistent with what we're telling people.
Yes.
And that's the reason why the question even came up to me.
Well, it makes sense, and the thing is, when you do the job for a living, like John and I can talk all day, we know exactly what we're talking about, but we do it all the time, whereas not everyone does it all the time, you don't really know what we're talking about, it's easy to confuse. Like I said, even the firefighters get, oh, send me a rescue. In Rhode Island, you get an ambulance. I wanted a heavy rescue to help cut someone out of this tractor. So you gotta be very careful, even on the radio, what you ask for. As a matter of fact, that tractor trailer rollover we had, I specifically said, I need a heavy rescue from Webster, because I knew what we were dealing with. And John had already said, okay, I'm here, we need a heavy rescue. I'm trusting you. So, and that was a 2.5-hour extrication, so.
All right, so we got a little bit of homework to do. We can look over our requests and try to grade them independently. Anything that you need to have a question or something, you can send it to Matt separately from everybody else, along with what you're grading. If you want to give it to him, you can compile it for our meeting. With
And
that, I think we're in
I
pretty
just
good
wanted to correct myself. You said I might have talked about replacing engine one. I didn't, because I knew I had that on capital coming up, so I left that out. I was replacing the rescue and the tanker that we had lost.
Yeah, I meant like, just like casually,
No,
people confusing
yeah,
what you
it's
meant.
true.
All righty.
Do you have dates for another meeting? 'Cause it's tricky when you.
What date would you like?
I don't care, just
Well-
more than 2 days ahead of time.
Okay, so next Wednesday, how's that for you? That's 7 days from now. Is that enough time for everybody?
So that would
We have to be
that would
proactive because-
February 31st,
Huh?
Mr. Chairman, February 31st,
Yeah. Correct.
March 3.
If that works for everybody, we just need to be proactive because the 23rd, we gotta be, if we gets dragged out another meeting or whatever, I wanna make sure that, and he's still gotta go arm wrestle Gene to find out.
Yeah, the third.
What we
looks
can
okay
spend.
to me.
So to answer your question, March 3rd at 2 PM, Ellie?
Okay.
Does that work for you, Shirley?
No, does not.
Aw,
Unfortunately.
any other day next week work for you? That we can have,
Monday, Tuesday. You know
what day is payroll?
I might,
Thursday.
I might be a little late on the 3rd. I have an appointment at 1 o'clock. I don't know how long it will last.
Would everybody be open to setting the appointment, setting the meeting for 2:30?
Sure. I'm fine with that.
I'm working at 3, but
Well, we'll have to talk fast. Brandon's only gonna be here for a half hour. We're gonna do the meeting at 2:30, Shirley.
Okay,
Well,
that's good.
would it make
I
sense to do?
do have a request.
What? Yep, go ahead.
Matt, could we sometime have a recap of the projects we voted on at the town meeting? An update, if we could?
The last town meeting or the capital items that haven't been completed?
The capital items we voted on, and where are they? How far
So
are
she's
they?
looking for our
That's
master
only the
list
radio
of,
project.
That's the radio, did we do one other thing?
no.
Senior
What she's asking is, remember Jean had that list that she gave us that we have money on, like, let's use the fire
No, I don't
alarm.
think so. I actually think Shirley's asking about what was approved in November.
Okay.
Senior Center in the.
Shirley, fix us. What are we looking for? What was approved in November or what's been approved right along that's not completed?
That would be better.
Which one? I asked you 2 questions.
Yeah, no. Let's put it, what's been approved and what hasn't been completed? And
Okay.
how far, how close are we?
Okay,
And the amount of money
okay.
spent.
We'll work on that over the next couple meetings because he's going to be challenged a little bit trying to get this other stuff for us.
Yep.
Yeah, what I have for you right now, Mr. Chairman, one quick, the radio project, so that's a contract negotiation. We had given them extensive feedback on their draft contract, them being the vendor.
Yeah.
They got back to me yesterday morning with their edits, so I want to run it by town council, and we should be engaging that contract very, very soon.
Right.
Now, they can't do anything right now anyway, in this weather, their
You may
outside
see
work.
that during this calendar year.
During this calendar year, absolutely, yeah. Now, once they get started, I think they said it was going to be 8 to 10 weeks.
Yeah, he told us, well, it's probably 3-4 months ago now, that he
Yeah.
said 12 to 14 months,
That's
Yeah, that-
includes the frequency inquiry with the FCC. That's
Oh, that's
the big
right.
chunk of that time.
Yeah.
The actual installation of equipment won't take that long.
Yeah.
And if I may,
Yes?
could you email me your request, because I didn't get any copy of anything on your request, just what I heard.
For the engine, you mean?
No, for your.
Your
request
presentation that you did, yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
If you could, please.
Yep.
Thank you.
So the next meeting will be March 3rd at 2:30, correct? Does anybody have anything else?
Sorry. Whoops.
Mute the dog.
That was your motion.
Yeah.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion made by John Furno to adjourn, seconded by Ellie Chesbro. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Shirley?
Julie Mazinski, aye.
Brandon. We'll do a roll call for Ashley.
Brandon Ozier, aye.
Ben Tessino, aye.
Ellie Chesbro, aye.
Mike Fitzpatrick, aye. So Ellie, that was unanimous, everybody voted to adjourn.